don't know why today I would be more, I guess, dejected being a West Ham fan than on any other day in particular. I think looking from the outside, you'd probably say, well, it's that thrashing you got at the hands of Arsenal. But I don't think it's just that. I think in many respects as West Ham fans, we're used to that sort of thing. I think what's probably driving my well, it's Monday for starters. I think what's probably driving my, let's say, dejected demeanour, if you want, and my West Ham depression is probably the realisation that, I don't know why it's particularly hit me today, that things are not going to get any better. I think we might have already seen the best. I basically think that was as good as it got, what we've had. And the reason I'm thinking that today is I am more certain than ever that the club have made up their mind that they want to get rid of Julen Lopetegui. Not that that in itself is a bad thing. I don't particularly rate him. I think, as I mentioned to Gio when we recorded our preview ahead of the Leicester City game, I don't think there are too many managers or too many clubs in the Premier League who, if they lost their manager, they would want Lopetegui. So, but you could go through all of them. The big ones are obvious. Of course, Aston Villa wouldn't want Lopetegui instead of Emery, but just drop down a little bit. Brentford, no. But I think it goes even lower than that. I think if you were to look at a club like Wolverhampton Wanderers, they're in the bottom three now. They're in trouble. If you were to ask Wolves, would you want Lopetegui to replace Gary O'Neill, it would be a no. I know that's an odd one because he's managed there before, but I think by and large, the vast majority of fans, even Ipswich and Southampton, would probably say no. So my point is I don't think we've got one of the best managers in the Premier League. So with that in mind, him leaving, that's not what I think is causing me to be a little bit more concerned about West Ham's future. It is, in fact, I think the choice of his replacement, but also the way in which it's been done. I've been wanting for some time for West Ham to sort of modernise, and I thought we were doing it, but it appears we haven't. It appears that just hasn't happened. I think we're really backdated, and I think actually the way Lopetegui puts his tactics out is a microcosm for how West Ham is. I think Lopetegui's tactics are actually quite dated, and I think they are, perhaps how football used to be rather than how football is now. And as I say, I think that translates to the club as well. I think we always tend to have a look at, we're never innovators in terms of our recruitment with coaches, and I think this is the case now. And I think perhaps we've been dazzled and by the glitz and the glamour of Edin Terzic. I think we perhaps look at him as a safe option, which I don't think that's ever a great thing to do, because I think Lopetegui was viewed as being a safe option. I think because he was once assistant manager here, we feel that he perhaps knows the club. But most importantly, I think we've been blinded by the bright lights of the German Cup win and get into the Champions League final. I'm not entirely sure anyone at the club has scratched below the surface and seen that there was a player revolt against him, to look at his league record and look at that final season that he had, where he did reach the Champions League final, but to finish fourth in Bundesliga and to lose so many of your players along the way, and for them to publicly come out and criticise the coach, to actually have evidence of him losing the dressing room. And evidence that the players rallied together and actually got them to that Champions League final, I think is something of a concern. And I think the reason that that's a concern is I don't have anything against Terzic at all, by the way. I hope, quite possibly, that he may be able to do okay at West Ham. Maybe he can. But he's just not the outstanding candidate. And I think one of the reasons that I had grown to think that perhaps West Ham's next appointment would be a better one, because I thought it would be done maybe more by committee, and I think the reason I believed that was because I thought Daniel Kretinsky would take more of an involvement. Not that Kretinsky himself knows an awful lot about football, but Kretinsky's a successful businessman, which is probably why he's not involved actively with West Ham at the moment, because he's so busy doing the Royal Mail thing. But because successful businessmen, particularly when they're multifaceted and they've been successful in business across lots and lots of different companies and lots of different fields, they tend to get experts in. They tend to hire experts and let the experts do their job. And I thought that would be maybe what would happen at West Ham. I think I'd allowed myself to think, well, at least if Lopetegui doesn't work out, we won't repeat the same mistake again. We'll actually just go and get a bright, up-and-coming, innovative coach I guess I sort of set my heart on Iraola amongst others, but yeah, that's just not going to happen now. What we're going to go and hire, by the looks of it, in Terzic he's a caretaker manager. And I don't mean West Ham are hiring him as a caretaker manager. That's really the role he fulfilled at Borussia Dortmund. The fact that he's not been hired since, the fact that they didn't want to keep him on despite the Champions League final, that should ring alarm bells, right? It's all very well us being really, really impressed with that guy taking Dortmund to a Champions League final. But you have to ask the question, why wasn't he kept on? Why weren't they impressed? Well, we've actually been linked with Hoeneß at Stuttgart, who was far more impressive. Last season was far more impressive, I thought, anyway. But to take a relegation team and to have them finish in third, they actually finished, second or third. Anyway, they finished above Dortmund in the Bundesliga. I just don't think he's an outstanding candidate. I think he's a director of football, and that's really what he is, who did a couple of caretaker stints, and that's it. And I think we're hoping that little glimpse that he did okay, I think is going to make him become a good manager. I think what we're doing is we're ignoring the other stuff, I think it's a little bit of a dangerous thing, and I'm a little bit concerned about. I think about the future of West Ham, and I think maybe my melancholy is sort of tied in with a lot of other stuff that's going on with the club at the moment. Before I go any further, I've got to ask a question. How's your bum fluff? Because I don't need to know personally, but you need to know, and that's why I'm going to be showing you my wonderful Manscaped Lawnmower 5.0. This is top of the tree in male grooming kit. This is the best money can buy. Actually, I lie. Manscaped's beard trimmer is the best male grooming tool money can buy, but this is definitely the second best. This is, it's magnificent. How do they make something that's electric but completely waterproof? I don't mean splash proof. You can take this in the shower, right? Properly in the shower, shave your Niagaras. You're shaving away your Niagaras. Not that. That's not the action you want, right? Different. I don't know, something like that. Whatever your technique is, doesn't matter. The shower, the water's coming down. This thing, it does not care. It's even got a torch on it as well. And look, it's actually got a detachable nib. Do we call it a nib? I don't know. But actually, you can take other little bits. So this is actually normal shavers. You might get one shaver that has a foil and a separate shaver. Not this. It's got all different bits. It's absolutely magnificent. Go and check it out. The link's in the description below for all your Manscaped stuff. We're going to give you 20% off. 20% off. That's before Christmas, plus free shipping. That means postage, basically. You've got to use a discount code. The discount code is HammersChatPubes, all one word. Go and check it out. This stuff, if you don't know what to buy anyone, and you think they might have a hairy undercarriage, then I can highly recommend the Lawnmower 5.0. If you just want to buy them a shaver for their face, go on to that. You can still use the same discount code for any of their products. So, anyway, back to from shaving your Betty Swallocks to a man that probably could do with a shave himself, which is Julen Lopetegui. Oh man, it was amazing how it showed you how paper thin West Ham's recovery was. That we managed to feel, quite elated, I think. Well, certainly for myself, I certainly felt quite elated after that Newcastle game. To the point, I didn't expect to win against Arsenal. I just thought, well, you know what? As long as there are some signs that the recovery is continuing, there were none. There were absolutely none. I'm not going to say we went from brilliant. We went from competent to complete incompetence really, really quickly. And I do wonder how this long list thing's going to go on for with Lopetegui. And here's really the purpose of this video. I think ordinarily we would be waiting for him to lose a number of games. Now, I'll just tell you now, I suspect we'll beat Leicester City, but I think we're capable of losing against Wolves. I think we're capable of losing against Bournemouth as well. It suddenly dawned on me. I don't know why. I think I allowed myself a little bit of hope after Newcastle. And I've got to try and temper my my hope afterwards. Listen, I'd really enjoy it if we beat Leicester, and I think we will beat Leicester. But I don't think it will mean anything. I think it will just mean we've beaten one of the bottom. I think Leicester will probably get relegated. I think Wolves will finish above them. But even if they're not a bottom three club, let's say they're a bottom five club. Do I think West Ham are capable of beating bottom five clubs in the Premier League? I do. but I absolutely believe that we are a bottom half club ourselves. And I think it's really that. And I think maybe it's the contrast of going from absolute hope with what we thought was a good transfer window to this now. I am adamant that the club have already decided that Lopetegui can't do the job, in which case you think, why keep him on? He is a dead man walking. He really is. They're just waiting for the necessary run of poor fixtures to get rid of him. And it is weird and it is odd. And I just think if you're going to do it and you are going to get rid of him, and I do believe that they will eventually, he's not going to see out his contract at West Ham, he just won't, then why not try and replace him with best in class? Where's the ambition? You just cannot make the case. Well, I guess you could try and make the case, but I won't be convinced that Terzic is an ambitious appointment. He's a comfortable appointment. He's I guess a cheap appointment. Dortmund didn't want him to keep him. No one else in the Bundesliga seemingly. They didn't look at it, the Bundesliga, and think, oh my goodness, look, Dortmund have lost a wonderful coach there, let's go and hire him. He was considered to be overly pragmatic, possession for possession's sake. They didn't think that he particularly matched what Dortmund wanted to do and what Dortmund wanted to play. And Marco Reus, who's like a legend over there, absolute legend. I mean, he fell out of him. Mats Hummels fell out of him. Our own Nicholas Füllkrug fell out of him. I don't know why I'm laughing about that, but it just shows not everything can be true. So, for instance, this is where it gets a bit confusing. We know that Tim Steidten and Füllkrug get along. They knew each other. Füllkrug gave the reasoning for his signing for West Ham as him being close with Tim Steidten. So, therefore, it stands to reason, if Füllkrug is close with Tim Steidten, then Tim Steidten will know what Füllkrug told German Sky TV last season, which he didn't fancy Terzic much. So he will know that. So I cannot think for a moment that it's Steidten that's recommending this guy. You couldn't recommend both, could you? You know, if you were in Steidten's position, you couldn't recommend Füllkrug and a guy he doesn't get on with. I find it odd. I find it very, very odd indeed. And it just shows how disjointed the club is. And it's really, really difficult to see any cohesive strategy and project forward. And I'm not talking on a managerial level. I believe that to be the case with Lopetegui. I thought after Newcastle, I sort of thought I knew what he was trying to do. Now I don't, again. But just at the top level at the club, I think you don't know what you're doing. You don't know, as the song goes, you don't know what you're trying to do. Don't know what you don't know what the identity is. It's almost like we're just trying to survive. But I'll leave you with this final thought on this one. I'll be honest with you. I think I'm just too annoyed. I'm not even annoyed. I am West Ham depressed. I've got to say it. I think I'm in too much of a grumpy old low mood today to do my chat GPT thing. I'll do that. I'll do that when I've perked up a bit tomorrow, hopefully. But I'll leave you with this. I'll leave you with this to consider now. And I'm sorry if I've made you miserable today. I really am. I'm not trying to infect you with my misery. I'll leave you with this now. Terzic may well be a caretaker manager who was appointed as basically in an emergency break glass appointment at Borussia Dortmund. Could it possibly be, and this is the only glimmer of any hope, that actually West Ham are only appointing him on the same? If we're going to do it, I do believe this is the case. I believe he could be better than Lopetegui. It's important for me to say this now because I will refer back to this in future videos when someone misquotes me. I think he could be better than Lopetegui. What I would like West Ham to do, if we are going to replace him, is Terzic gets a contract from now until the end of the season. And then we look at it again. All right? Then we look at it again closely. And we maybe go and explore what other managers are doing. Then and only then you would convince me that West Ham have got a long-term strategy. But if what we find is Lopetegui gets the boot and then Terzic gets a 2-3 year contract, then I've got to say I would just be thinking, lack of foresight once again.